perhaps pursuing graduate school. We've had other workshops on those topics. And so today's is the second of our first part, which was on generating income for undocumented students. Our focus for today is the entrepreneur mindset. And we have two very distinct entrepreneurs who do different things, great things in society. And we're going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their business in a second. And I would just like to start with our presentation. And before that, make sure that everyone is okay with recording our presentation so that for folks who are not attending, they can have access to the information.
And if I can add to that, Juan, for everyone. So we're, like Juan mentioned, we intend to record this presentation so we can upload and share with folks who are not able to be here. But there are certainly going to be moments where folks are going to be engaging in dialogue. And so if you don't feel comfortable in having your voice recorded or even your name on the video, please let me know, and we will make sure to edit that out before we publish the recording. But again, please let us know. Otherwise, we will move forward with sharing the information while still protecting your information as well. Thank you, Juan.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ana. With that being said, let's get started. And Ana and Andrea, you are co-hosts, so feel free to respond to the chat or bring up any questions that come up. Okay. I'm trying to see. Can you all see the title of the presentation here? Excellent. So let's get started, folks. My name is Juan Ruiz, and I am the entrepreneurship consultant for San Jose State University. I run a limited liability company that allows me to engage in business. And so I provide training, consulting, and education services. And my area of expertise, developing expertise, if I may add, is pathways for entrepreneurship for undocumented folks and pathways to graduate school. As I mentioned earlier, I am also a graduate student at UC Santa Cruz in the doctoral program in Latin American Latino Studies. And I am very open about my status. I am undocumented and without work authorization. So all things entrepreneurship or graduate school, when you have these circumstances, I will share what has been my experience like and some of the resources or folks who have assisted me in advancing in my career path. And so I'll always be open to share that with you. I'm going to unpack a little bit of the information on what is the entrepreneur mindset. And in so doing, at any point in the presentation where you want clarification, you want to ask a question, delve further into the topic, please do so. And I will make sure to engage. As well, this is your space, so if anybody has anything to contribute to the material that we're talking about, please do so at any time. This is a shared space for us. With that said, let's get started. So the content of the presentation is I'm going to unpack a little bit of what is the entrepreneur mindset. And some of the folks here who are also entrepreneurs, feel free to jump in. Then I'm going to give an opportunity for our panelists to introduce their work, their business, what are they doing? And then we'll have some questions that we've already prepared for the entrepreneur panelists, as well as anybody in real time, we could generate new questions. And then I'll share some resources that I have thus far, and anyone else can do the same. So let's meet our entrepreneurs before we get started with what is the entrepreneur mindset. Donatio Ramos is a web developer and designer with a background in software engineering and a member owner of Radiate Consulting, a former Dreamers in Tech leader. And I'll let Donatio mention a little bit more about themselves in a second. And we also have Roberto Lopez, a mycologist who runs a small business in the Bay Area, focused with community education and workshops, specializing in rejuvenating solutions on protecting the earth, animals, and making fungi-based information and tools accessible to folks. So with that said, Tonatiuh and Roberto, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you for the invite. Very happy to be here. I'm also undocumented without DACA, and very open about my status. I'm happy to share my experience and my path so far. I think really quick, I went to community college for mechanical engineer. Community college at the time was pretty difficult for me because I didn't connect with any resources or help. I didn't know who to ask or what to say. So it's pretty much hiding my status during that time. Actually, for me, it was very difficult to see a path to like transferring or finishing university. And after a lot of years in college, I decided to take a different route. And that's when I joined a boot camp for software engineering. And through that, I was ready to get a job as a software engineer right after. I went through a ton of interviews. I got some offers, but of course that didn't translate to a job. And through that, being closer to the nonprofit organizations and also leading Dreamers in Tech, I find web design as a better path for me, something that was more practical and where I can still help the community. And through that, I've been getting a lot of experience, being working as a freelance and now co-owner of Radiate Consulting. And yeah, I think there's a few good things to come, and I can share more later during the chat.
Thank you, Tonatiuh. Roberto.
All right, so my name's Roberto or Rob Lopez. So yeah, I started off making music. Honestly, I wasn't really into mycology at first. I just started picking it up like about 2.5 years. Me personally, I didn't finish school. I had to drop out because of my circumstances. Being undocumented. I used to live in Georgia, so over there the laws are very difficult. So a lot of the laws here that we have in California are more lenient towards people that are undocumented. And over there, it's like any small thing or any little small situation that you mess up, you can probably face deportation. So over the years, my brother went to prison. As a kid, I ended up just basically supporting my family and taking care of them as a kid. At age 16, like I said, I dropped out, became the person taking care of the whole house just because my mother was facing cancer. And for 2.5 years, I was working just by myself. She's a single mother, so we didn't really have our father around. And so I didn't really get to finish school. Over time, I lost my friend in my arms, where he got shot and died in my arms. So the situation that I was going through put me in a predicament where I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I was facing deportation, so I didn't think I was going to qualify for DACA. So I ended up going to school, trying to finish school, to go ahead and get my what's it called? What's the other part that you get when you don't finish high school?
The associates or the GRE?
Basically, it's like not a high school diploma, but it's
GED.
GED.
Yeah, GED. Yeah, GED. So I ended up applying for that, and I ended up getting my DACA. And luckily, I beat my case too that I was facing for my friend dying in my arms. They were trying to give me 25 years and also trying to deport me because I was tempting with like moving his body in situation. So like I was already like facing a lot of things during the time that I was going to school. So it kind of like still put me away from school. So I didn't get to finish school still. So right now, that's what I'm in the process of doing. So I ended up getting into mycology just because I was healing myself, if that makes sense. I have a lot of PTSD, especially going through that situation that I was going through. So I went on this hike with this forager. And from there, that small hike led into something else, understanding that mushrooms also help me with my anxiety and also understanding that it helps the earth. I do a lot of animal rights activism. After I left Georgia, they took my DACA away because of cannabis. And when they took my DACA away, I ended up falling into having the same jobs as my mother did when she first came from Mexico. So I ended up working in the field, and I ended up being a factory farm worker as well. So and then also during the time I was also plant-based. So I was working in a place that it kind of made me look at a situation of the oppression that, that my mom was going through. So when I moved to the Bay Area, I started getting more involved with activism, and I started doing activism for like the animals, just because I didn't like the fact that the animals were being mistreated most of the time. And the fact that a lot of the workers there were like people that were undocumented that didn't know their rights. So yeah, that led into that, and then moved to the Bay Area as soon as I got away from the Central Valley, just to kind of like do more for myself, just because I couldn't see myself working in the same place that my mother was working for a long period of time, or like my family from before. So as I got involved in activism, like I said, I got involved in hikes and doing all these things with community. And I started taking these courses online and learning about permaculture, and just understanding the ways that we can actually find solutions to our problems with the effects that we've already caused damage on our earth. So since then, I just started picking up mycology. I started with a grow kit, thinking that I knew what I was doing, and eventually I started reading more books. I started taking courses online. Started getting involved with the community out here. And now this year, I'm finally launching my business as like developing and having like mushrooms that are gourmet for restaurants to cook, and also like packaging, eliminating plastic out of people's waste, I guess you could say. So that's kind of what I do. And we also take people on hikes, kind of like a therapy thing, and allowing people to kind of just work with themselves, to kind of like help themselves out through with like, I guess, focus more on life and get through in life, because a lot of the times we feel very traumatized because of the things that we go through in life.
Excellent. Beautiful. Thank you both for sharing such powerful stories, thought-provoking, very heartfelt, and I appreciate you sharing. And that's the reason why spaces like these are so important, where we can exchange information and be open and safe with each other's information. So thank you for sharing, Roberto and Tonatio. So I'm trying to paint the picture here, folks, of why entrepreneurship is an important and very accessible way for us to make a living, to where if we don't have work authorization, or if we graduate from the university with a particular degree, like, we can start creating our own pathways. And so the idea here is, I'm providing one of the definitions, is that entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business or businesses and taking on the risk of generating financial profits, right? But said differently, in other ways, it's also a way to figure out a way to monetize your passion and earn revenue. And so when we're looking at entrepreneurship this way, work authorization is really not central to how we start thinking as entrepreneurs. And that's my goal for today, to show you that with your particular expertise and your degree and the information that we covered last week on the different sort of business structures, the ways that you can set up a business, whether it be as a freelance independent contractor, or a co-owner of a cooperative, or a limited liability company. That option that you do on your business structure, very separate from your passion and your expertise, all of you have the option to take on this pathway of entrepreneurship, where work authorization is not central for our decision making. Okay. So some of the reasons why you might want to be self-employed. And again, bracket the work authorization to the side. Some of you might have DACA and have work authorization. Some of us don't. Is that your work authorization is not central. It's not the dead end, right? And no one needs to know about your status when you are self-employed. If you are an independent contractor, you provide your tax identification number, right? If you have an LLC, you might provide your employer identification number. In nowhere do you have to complete an I-9 form that requires E-Verify or your work authorization number. Instead, another reason why you might want to be self-employed is because you have this passion that you want to follow, that perhaps being an employee somewhere, you're not going to find that passion. You may want to work with more than one client at a time. And when you are an employee somewhere, you might be constricted to working only with one person, one company, right? Where your time goes there, where you receive training, there's a certain way that you do things. Instead, when you are self-employed, you have as many clients as you want. You devote your time and your interest to whatever number of clients you may have. And you have the ability to set your own schedule and take ownership of your time. Maybe the ordinary way of 9 to 5 is not for everyone, right? And as I'm sure Robert knows, mushrooms don't grow just any time of the year. There might be particular places and settings where conducting your business doesn't meet that 9 to 5 pigeonhole. And so you have the ability to set your own time. You have to showcase that when you're self-employed, you are the expert of your topic, right? You have that expertise. You have to be convincing. You have to know in yourself that you are the perfect person to meet that need that a client might have. And ideally, when you embrace this pathway of entrepreneurship, or you get yourself in the mindset of thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur, is because you have the ability to come up with solutions, urging solutions that your client might have. You have the ability to work alone and be creative. And so I'm not saying that as an employee somewhere, you cannot come up with solutions, right? Or be creative. But when you are running your own business, when you are finding and networking your own clients and meeting their needs, you have to be that expert that comes up with those solutions and be creative, because you are accountable to yourself. So you don't get that particular training that an employer provides you on an onboarding process. Let me give you an example based on some of our students here who are attending San Jose State University. And there's two different things before you begin a client relationship or you are doing business with someone. First is that you as the individual, all of you are different in terms of your specialty, your education, the credentials you possess, right? For example, here, you may have a bachelor's of science in computer science. You might have a bachelor's of arts in childhood education, and you have the credentials to teach children from K through 12, right? Or you might have a master's of science in engineering. And so those are your specialty and credentials. Those are the skills that you bring to the table. And if you want to be self-employed, then you would have to choose a business structure, as we covered last week. You would have to decide, do I want to work for myself under my name as a freelancer? Or do I want to be a sole proprietor of a business and get a fictitious business name, right? Do business as whatever fictitious business entity. Or do I want to establish a limited liability company? The idea here is that business structure is very separate from your education and credentials that you possess. However, you as the expert, when you engage in a client relationship, you bring those skills and you are engaging as a self-employed expert with your client based on that structure that you have, right? And so some of the ways that you can engage in entrepreneurship is by consulting. Probably there's an established institution such as San Jose State, right? Or a private organization, and you come to them as the expert. You possess these set of skills and you have your business entity and you showcase, I am the right person to meet the needs that your company has, right? Or you are the perfect fit for that job or project that no one in that company, no employee there is doing, but your set of skills and your business entity comes to resolve that unmet need per se. Okay, let me give Andrea a chance to ask the question.
Thank you. It was more of a comment based on the examples that you're giving about consulting. One of the examples we gave the workshop last week was for child development, I believe. Like the question was, what are ways to make income with my degree with child development? And some of the ideas that we came up with were doing consulting work because, like you said, Juan, as a business entrepreneurship, sole proprietorship, you have particular skill set and knowledge that other people don't. So doing consulting work with your background in child development could have you go to childcare sites, maybe so you can evaluate and assess the way they're working, or maybe you introduce programming ideas. Anything that you're specifically good at is what your business would be about.
Yes, thank you. And in addition to that, there are allies out there who might say, I want to work with you one way or another, so figure it out, right? And according to the law, when someone knows about your status, if you are undocumented without work authorization, they can't engage with you and hire you to work for them. But being realistic, you might come across the instance of, well, I don't care what you do, but I want to work with you, right? And so the idea here is that if you possess these skills, these desirable skills by someone who wants to engage with you as a client, then you have to set up, right, that business structure to meet those needs. And so then, just as a reminder, where we went over last week was some of the business models, some of the structures that can allow you to bring your skills to light. And I just want to remind you of these resources that, based on your county, based on your expertise, and the sort of business that you might want to engage, you would have to decide, do I need a business name for my company? Do I need some sort of particular license to do this sort of service? Do I need to have a particular seller's permit if I'm going to sell something that I produced, right? So the State of California Franchise Tax Board has a guide to the moments when you might, the sort of entities where you might need to establish a doing business as sort of sole proprietorship. And these are all live links where you're able to play around with them and see, if I want to engage in this sort of business in this county, what are the particular licenses that I need to file for? So lastly, and then I'm going to turn to my panelists to help me out in painting this picture of why you might want to do business for yourself. What I have here is that the entrepreneur mindset, this mentality that you start to produce when you want to embrace this risk of generating profits as a business owner, is that it's a way of thinking creatively, strategically, decisively, that enables you to harness your passions, skills, and experiences and knowledge to overcome challenges, right, and provide solutions to your clients. And so you might want to ask yourself, what are some of the skills that I possess? What drives and motivates me? What is my passion that I might not find in the employee-employer setting? What are some of the talents that I have, and how do I incline naturally to want to navigate my reality and generate income through that? You can also work for yourself, know that you can develop an expertise. There's ways of marketing your products or services wisely, and we'll share some resources that help you elaborate on these ideas. And ultimately, you need to understand the ins and outs of engaging in contracting and paying taxes thoroughly. And that's some of the information that we covered before. But most importantly, as an entrepreneur, you have to believe in yourself, that you are the expert and that this is an option for you and that this is something you can and want to do. So having painted that idea, I'm going to turn now to my panelists and I'm going to ask them questions so that they can help me elaborate on this. Okay. So fellow panelists, before we begin into some of the questions, what do you think of this entrepreneur mindset? Like, where do you see yourself fitting these ideas, or how did they contribute to your launching of business, or what are some of the things that you would contribute to how I painted this picture? Could start with Donatio.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of things that you said, and like so much for any business to grow and to put your skills to practice, right? And be of value of others. I think one of the things that I've noticed, me being an independent contractor, freelancer, or web developer, is that just knowing how much it's needed to have a business. Because I thought that at the beginning, I thought it was just my skill that I needed, but in reality, there's all other skills like selling, marketing, running your business. So kind of like amplifying the view of what an entrepreneur is to understand how I can work with others. And I think another thing will be just creating value for my clients and be a problem solver. Because sometimes, like you said, they want to work with you, but they don't really know how, or they don't care. So having that mentality of like being ready to answer those questions for them, and if I don't know the answer, being that person that can figure it out on how to work with them.
Excellent, thank you. Roberto, do you have anything to contribute to that?
And the question was that how did the entrepreneur mindset influence my launching, correct?
Yeah, you're launching of the business, how you saw yourself as an entrepreneur, how it plays out in the way that you do your business.
Yeah, I guess for me, it was just basically understanding that, like for me, I'm really into my health. So for me, like I was like, how can I bring this to people like that don't know, and make it more accessible, but with the information with it, if it makes sense. And the drive that kind of just drove me to like getting my business launched was knowing that a lot of people that were consuming some of the items that I was growing was actually getting benefits from it. And then from there, maintaining my business, like I guess just asking questions, like asking for feedback and taking criticism, and understanding that, criticism is nothing personal, but it's something for growth. And let's see what else. And then I guess just what influenced me to kind of just keep my business going also was understanding that this is also going to help not just human life, but also the earth in general. And this is something that the world actually needs, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. I think you answered some of the questions that we are looking into, right? Like, how does your launching your business impact your quality of life, or how has your business impacted your community? Other questions that I think that we haven't touched upon is like, why do you think people should consider starting a co-op or a particular sort of business structure? But before we do that, I do want to take a pause and ask folks from the audience, do you have any particular questions for the panelists, or would you like them to elaborate on some of what has already been said?
We got a raised hand from Donna.
I think I did wanted to add. I feel like it was a difficult question, actually, because it was like, how did the entrepreneur mindset influence your launching? And to me, like, I don't think I had that entrepreneur mindset until like later on when I was already doing it. And I think that's because when I started, I just wanted to work. I just wanted a 8 to 5 job and get paid. And it was like, I didn't want to start a business. But it was through seeing that freelancing or working as an independent contractor was an option to grow my profession that I started looking into it. And the more I looked into it, the more I learned on ways how to like work with clients and the things I needed to actually provide the service or give that service that I can provide as a web developer. So I think that grew as I looked for solutions for how to work for myself and work with others. And I think that just continues to grow now, because now that I'm on this end trying to provide services and working with others, is like, oh wait, but what else can I do? How other services can I provide? How do I increase my price? Or what other things I can do in other like businesses aside from what I'm doing now?
I appreciate your honesty, because I was sort of hinting towards that, because sometimes I don't think of myself as a business owner, and like my LLC is established with the Secretary of the State in California, and I am deemed as like this business entity. But at the same time, it's like, okay, like if I ask myself that question, it's like something that I was like thrown into very much, right? Like based on the need that I had. And there's moments when you're like totally attracted to the idea of like, oh, I'm working for myself, I don't work for anyone. And that's very empowering. But I do agree with you. Sometimes it's based out of a need, and it can be very daunting and scary. And it's like, oh man, I just need to generate income and keep going, especially because everything is capitalism, right, in this society. But I do want to hear to Fabian, who raised their hand, and then we'll move to the second raised hand.
Hi, can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Uh, I am studying software engineering right now, and something that I'm struggling with is, as of right now, I'm attracted to the idea of entrepreneurship and starting my own business, but trying to navigate that uncertainty. How did you guys know that entrepreneurship was the way to go for you?
Does the software engineer here want to take the first attempt?
Yeah. So entrepreneurship is, I think it's like a personality is something you do where you put yourself into a situation, and there was a definition earlier, where you put a situation in which you try to offer a service or job or create something that is gonna provide a service or value, and it's gonna grow. So a business, but like bring yourself into these different situations and taking risks. So I think there's like different things that you can do. Like for me, I didn't have to set up a business starting off. I feel like that's something that I didn't have to do, but I did because I didn't have experience. But having the mentality of like trying different things and providing the service, I think that's the mentality of entrepreneurship. And I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, but remind me if that's not, that was not the question. And I can say a lot more about like working as a software engineer in the industry too.
Yeah, I actually appreciated that answer a lot. I feel like that a lot of what you said resonated with me. And just to add one quick follow-up question, can you avoid having to work for others as you make your way up to starting your own business as a software engineer?
I mean, I think to get money, you literally have to work for others. So whether you work with others or for your clients, you will be working with other people. Yes, I think on my end, experience has been very important, and seeing where I can find that experience has been crucial to like the things that I can do, because I do have skills, but I also need like experience so that others see what I can do. So like a portfolio is full of like past projects, past clients, and that's experience that I gain. And that was a challenge at first. So yes, you can work on your own at any level. And what I see from independent contractors is that there's independent contracting in all areas, in all sectors, for all jobs. It's just the experience that they have where they can take themselves out of a job and work as an independent contractor. So for independent contractors, a lot of time they look for very specific works with skills. But I think in our situation, it's just a matter of fact of finding and creating that experience for ourselves so that we can grow our experience and put ourselves into those situations. And a lot of the time is just looking for those opportunities where we can start and continue to grow our business.
Thank you, Tonatiuh. I have a different way of answering that question, and it's from the client perspective and their budget. But I will wait for that so that I can allow Roberto to chime in on this. You have been raising your hand for a minute.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. So yeah, as the independent contractor thing, honestly, I've been able to just ride off of that, right? Like, I'm just gonna ride off of that, what we just said, because I do animal care, right? So sometimes I get contracted to be a vet tech randomly. Sometimes I have friends that have like clinics, right? So those are like good tools to, to take in, like, like you said, finding ways that we're good at something and then taking those tools to like create some type of income for ourselves, and then also investing that into something that we like. And then the question that Fabian was asking, I did want to say that what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up my business. This year, like one of the things that I've been doing for the past year and a half is just basically one of the things that I took down on these conferences that I go to is basically just set yourself up for success and start applying, like start getting these tools that you need in order to make things happen for yourself. So by the time that you're already ready to launch your business, you already have everything you need. And it's not as so difficult to make things happen for yourself. So like me personally, as a mycologist, I work for myself. And I tend to, what's it called? I always get hired to take people out for hikes or something like that, right? And I feel like, yeah, you can, it's probably, work for yourself depending if you're developing your own website, maybe.
Cool. Thanks for contributing to that. One thing that I would add to both of your responses is that it's important to know your clients, and it's important to know like what are their unmet needs that their employees are not taking care of, right? So, for example, you have these very particular set of skills that don't meet the job description that any of the employees are doing for a company, right? And so then instead of creating a new job description, instead of hiring somebody else to do that job, it's like, no, we might have a budget that we want to designate to hire an independent contractor to come and do just this particular project, right? Or make sure that we are meeting this need. And so then when you have a client who has these needs and a budget, then you're able to find areas where you're able to work for others per se. So I took like Fabian's question of before you engage as a software engineer, independent contractor, do you have to work for others? And my understanding of the question was like, do I have to have like a side job before I embrace just being a software engineer, right? And so I think it depends if you are able to also find the client that has the budget and you have these set of skills. And so there, it might be the case that you never have to do a different type of job before you build up your business. It's like, oh, I have a client, there's a budget, I have these set of skills, and we make the perfect match. And so then that looks different for everyone, right? Especially, and maybe this is a good question to ask Tonatiuh, and I'm sure Andrea as well, is when you are part of a cooperative, part of a co-op, how do you go about finding your clients, right? As opposed to Roberto, who is working on your own, and you also have a set of clients. So how does your expertise, your business structure, in particularly to you both that are in a cooperative, how do you engage with clients?
Do you want to get started, Donna?
You can start.
Okay. So for me, I think going back to the conversation of we became entrepreneurs because of the need. I felt like that was my position. I wanted to do something to generate income and just have a position for myself. I think reaching out to clients really opened that like business side of me that I never thought I had. I was like nothing to do with math, money. I was kind of shy about making negotiations, talking to clients. So I really pushed myself out there. I started by making scripts of what I would, questions I would might be asked, so I can have an answer, so I can tell them what services I provide. So I do Spanish and English interpretation. So I would reach out to like nonprofits, organizations via email or try to call and give my speech about, oh, my name is Andrea. I can offer interpreting services. Let me know if you need anyone. And I think I got a list of 20 organizations I reached out to and no one emailed me back. So I was like, this didn't work. I put so much work. I was so scared. And slowly, because Donatiu and I are in a cooperative and an agency together, we have other colleagues that started reaching out to me for help, and we would collaborate. You start meeting people, then you do your networking, asking for someone to give you clients or cooperating with their jobs. And I think slowly I gained a few more skills on how to find clients and do those negotiations.
Yeah, I think to continue that is like you want to put yourself in this environments or places where you can catch opportunities. So there's opportunities to find work or opportunities to grow your experience. And for me, I was part of a fellowship before, and this was kind of like a continuation to continue to be involved with the nonprofit, like in the nonprofit sector, because that's how kind of like we're marketing, or the clients that we were marketing to, and I wanted those to be my clients. I think there's different co-ops. You can find a co-op where everyone in the co-op is practicing the same service. And then they might have one designated person that's doing the marketing and sales, or they can all together market themselves as one business that provides this service. I think for us it's a little bit different because everyone in the cooperative have like different skills and they're working with different organizations on different work. And that actually has helped me to where like there's only another person that's doing web development on the co-op. So I think like the opportunities that come to us because of clients that are looking for business that work with nonprofits, they come to us, they look for web development, and that has worked for me because we're a few of those there. Yeah, and I think, and the only thing I want to say is that I do refer to the co-op as an agency just because it's easier for my clients to like understand. And sometimes I don't even need to explain what a co-op is. Also, like being an owner gives me kind of like a type of title that creates trust for my clients. And as a business entity, that also gives trust that you're working with another business, not just a person, which is not what I realized at the beginning, but now that works for me. Yep.
Thank you for those responses, folks. Are there any other additional questions you may have in the audience, or any follow-up questions?
I think I have a question for Rob. How do you do your marketing? How did you start getting clients and tell them what to expect, what your service would be?
I started doing an email list. So it's like one of the things that I started doing was like as I was doing activism, I started getting involved with community pop-ups. Just seeing around what the communities have to offer, and then seeing how I can help them solve their problems, finding those solutions. And one of the things that we got to offer was like therapy walks for people. And helping them like not just like find mushrooms, but also finding themselves. And how can we bring that to them and also accessible to anybody. And then I guess marketing wise, I come from the background where I did a lot of music before, and then also went on tour doing photography for artists. When I used to make music. So like for me, marketing was kind of easy because I can take my pictures. I do graphic designing, so I do digital art. That's what I started doing in school. I did a lot of digital art. So for me, like marketing was like just kind of so easy and I kind of just fall into it. So like I'm always online, you know, making sure that I'm promoting either like knowledge for people to know. Like, let's say I'll post a picture of a mushroom that nobody's seen before, or explaining what are the benefits or what to look out for, what type of trees to look out for. And then also giving them information on where to find these type of items too, you know. And then from there, I guess it kind of word of mouth as well, you know, having testimonies. Right now I am working on creating flyers where people actually write out their testimonies. I'm coming out on these hikes or these classes that I have, and I'll post them on my page, making sure that I have all these testimonies prepared in case when I launch my website, it's already ready and secure, and I already have everything looking nice and clean.
Thank you. Anna, you have a question.
Yes, yeah, thank you so much for everything everyone is sharing. I do want to give Andrea a huge shout out at some, I had the privilege to kind of see her growth, as an undergrad and now seeing all this amazing things that she is doing. And so Andrea, you make it look so easy, but I know it's been really, really hard work. And so thank you for sharing, a little bit about your own experience. But one of the questions I had, and maybe this is for all four of you, you, Juan, Andrea, Donatio, and Rob, which is, if this applies to you, what type of opportunities or what type of activities were you involved in that helped you as an undergrad gain some of these skills that you're now putting into practice as an entrepreneur?
Anyone want to start? I could briefly share mine if whatever works. So I knew that I had to center myself and study what I wanted to study. Like to begin with, like there are very little jobs for philosophers, right? Because that's what I majored in, philosophy. And when you're undocumented, people will tell you like, what are you gonna do with that? Like to begin with, like you can't make a living as a philosopher. And I thought, well, I will figure it out. Like that was my natural inclination. There was things that I wanted to discover, read, question, and I noticed that I was acquiring a bunch of skills. And so my skills were like thinking critically and organizing my arguments. I had a very social activist agenda. And so then I knew that thinking critically, argumentatively, and being very eloquent when I spoke and outlined my ideas, it was helping me in ways that went beyond just reading about Socrates and Plato and whatnot. And so then I knew that centering myself in what I wanted to study was going to play out eventually. And some of the workshops that I lead, some of the work that I do with philosophy departments in very different capacities go back to those very fundamental skills that I just did what I wanted to do. And then eventually it started like adding up together. I'll pass it over to the next entrepreneur.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. So yeah, for me, I guess like Juan said, it was just like the social justice background too, you know, learning that in order to have something successful, you do have to have a support system and in order to fall back onto, you know, so that way when you do launch something, you have some people that are actually willing to support you, because support does go a long way. And yeah, and just like my background, you know, as an artist, like I did do a lot of digital art for a lot of people. So knowing what catches people's attention. I don't know, for some reason as a kid, I would always study like corporations, right? Like logos. And for some reason I was like, okay, I need to see what gravitates people's attention. I just like with what they look, but also what they're listening, what they're consuming all the time, and how can I not manipulate, but how can I use it in my way to create something better and beneficial for the people that are going to be, you know, trying out what I'm trying to bring to them. And yeah, I think, what else? yeah, the skills, and then you know, like one of the things is now that I'm doing mycology, and if I really think about it, when I was a vet tech, you know, taking proper sterilization uh guidelines, like these things are intersecting now, you know, like with mycology, I have to be very sterile. So now like I learned those things about like certain syringes, right? And in mycology, I'm using syringes too to like spread spores onto like petri dishes, or when I'm on looking at them through a microscope, the similarities of the things that I was doing, things in the vet tech world into like mycology world now too.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, I think for me, I think experience is very important. Any experience that you can get, all these different places that you can involve yourself, you'll always be learning something about it, you'll always be learning about different things, and you can apply those in the future. I think another thing that I learned was like taking leadership. And when I was leading Dreamers in Tech, that was very important, right? Because you're trying to, you have goals, you're trying to accomplish things. But as an individual, you also have to take leadership of your person and your goals and where you're going. So those things kind of overlap. And I think for me, before going like full-time into web design and web development, my experience was like as a leader of Dreamers in Tech. And what that provided was a lot of work with other organizations, a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication, a lot of understanding how nonprofit works, community groups work, seeing like dynamics within the nonprofit and understand where they're coming from, like even their budgets and how they work. And I think that has really helped me to communicate and understand my clients now, where like I understand the dynamics of like different nonprofits, and it doesn't matter what type of work they're doing. I feel like I can relate to them, and I feel like I understand how they work and their challenges. And I think that communication and understanding creates a lot of trust. So that has helped me to really serve nonprofits in particular.
Thank you, Donatiu.
I guess for me, my journey with entrepreneurship started here in spaces and workshops like this. Probably a year or two ago, when I sat in on a workshop that Anna and Juan were leading, teaching about how to generate income. I was so interested. Like I had no idea that me, you know, someone who doesn't have who's undocumented, could make money in a legal way, could have a legit position. So I was so interested, and I would come to these and ask questions. And in one of the workshops, they had panelists like we do today. And I met David, who's another interpreter in the same agency that Donna and I are in, Radiate Consulting. So he started talking about his experience with translation and interpretation. So I was like, okay, well, I could speak Spanish. And later that, I don't know, a month or two after that, I was in a situation where I had to interpret English to Spanish to my family in Mexico, because we had a relative that was in the hospital. So I had to use the language, you know, medical language, which I'm used to because of what I'm studying. But I was used to it in Spanish. I mean, I'm sorry, in English. So translating it to Spanish, interpreting to Spanish, I had to conduct, like, to carry a different tone of voice. I had to keep my calm and temper and just do my best with that. So I think that was my first aha moment. Like, this is it. This is what I can do. I can be like David and work in that agency. So then I followed through with applying with the interview process. I joined the agency and slowly getting those entrepreneurship skills.
Thank you so much, Andrea. So if I can just summarize, unless folks want to add more to it. So to summarize, like, one, I hear you like lean towards your passions, right? Like, don't sacrifice your major just because you assume that you can't do anything with it. I'm also hearing, you know, the importance of gaining transferable skills. So even if you are doing something that's unrelated to your overall passion, right? Those skills might transfer over in the near future once you kind of have like that aha moment, like you spoke about, Andrea, where you can now use that transferable skill. The other thing that I'm also hearing is the importance of taking leadership, right? If you don't see it, make it happen. And so to your point, Donna, about, you know, there was no opportunities for me as, you know, student in STEM or in the computer sciences. So you therefore took the initiative to create something for that community. And now you get to work with nonprofits and like help build that capacity, right? And he has just the support of the importance of networking and collaborating, right? Like networking can open up opportunities when you least expect it. And so hopefully I captured everything, but I just want to give a summary real brief so folks who, maybe tune in a little bit later. But thank you so much.
Thank you all. How about we take a pause? It's 4 p.m. I know some folks might have to go to classes or things of that nature. We did allot time till 4:30. And if folks who are in the audience want to ask a question, or also another idea I had with the remaining 30 minutes that we have, perhaps you have some ideas, something that you might be pondering of like, well, maybe I would like to launch a business. Maybe I would like to know more about working as a freelancer, and you want to workshop some of those ideas. Maybe you could bring them up right now. You have another 4 folks who might have been in your position already and grappled with some of these thoughts and were resources to you. Otherwise, we can continue the chat. I have a few slides on resources that might help you develop some of your ideas or tap into some of the networks that can help you establish a business model and things of that nature. But yes, Andrea.
I had another question for Rob, since you mentioned that you were in the process of like launching your business, right? What step of the process are you in? Was it hard to create your business name? Are you needing any help, or where are you finding your resources?
Honestly, it took me a while because like I didn't really grow up with people around me that were launching businesses or being entrepreneurs or nothing like that. So for me, it was just kind of like asking questions to people that I looked at myself being in their similar position, right? Sorry about that. I have a dog. So yeah, so just asking those questions to people that are already in that position, like, hey, how can I take the next step into like doing this? And then when I started asking these questions, I got some of these answers. So then I started looking up on Google, how can I start up a business, being undocumented, being from Mexico? Do I need a social security? Do I need all these IDs? I started asking all these questions on Google, and eventually I started getting answers, So right now I'm in the process of just basically, I finally got my domain name for my website. So before I launch my website, I want to make sure that I have everything established. And then also understanding that I can also open up my business, not just in California, but in different areas too. That's going to be a lot more helpful in the long run for myself too. And then I guess, yeah, that's really right now I'm just in the process of just getting my LLC. That's really the main thing. And then from there, I already have inventory. Inventory is not an issue because I wanted to make sure that I had all the equipment before I even launched my business. So that way, by the time that I launch my business, it's already ready to just go. From like flyers, labels, sending email lists to people that are already interested in the things that I'm doing. So it's kind of like already structured in a way where I don't really have to struggle as much.
That's amazing. You're doing a lot of self-teaching, and well, it seems like you're doing all the right steps. You're giving yourself time to prepare and have everything covered. Thank you.
And then I was gonna say also too, just having friends like yourself around too, it's very helpful to spread this information, especially like when I'm learning these things. Like sometimes I go get watermelons right from the person down the street. I'm like, hey, you can set up a business selling these watermelons, let me help you out. So like, and then just giving out the information out like that, so it's very beneficial.
That's awesome. Thank you. Juan, if you don't mind, I had another question for
Yes.
Donna. I wanted to know a little bit more about your background with Dreamers in Tech and what your role was. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll try to be quick. So yeah, well, I was in college. College didn't work out for me. I went through a boot camp, and everyone out of the class of that boot camp got a job. Now they're working. Now that it's been like 4 years now, they're all working at big companies, and that's all I wanted to do, but it didn't work out for me. So when that didn't work out for me, I went back to looking for resources for me as an undocumented person specifically. And that's when I got connected with organizations and community groups, and Dreamers in Tech was one of them. And my goal was to find another person in the same situation that wanted to work as a software engineer. And it was very difficult because a lot of people in our community, they're not very open, and completely understandable. But like Rob was saying, like, you want to communicate with others, you want to find other people in your space, so you can so you have someone to talk to, someone to reflect with, and find that support. And I found Dreamers in Tech as a community group, and seeing that I had so much energy and spirit for finding solutions and creating opportunities is when I started taking leadership of the group. And through that, I was able to find a fiscal sponsor because we were not going to register as a nonprofit. And I actually changed fiscal sponsors of the organization twice, which I don't get to tell anyone, but it was the most difficult thing. It went from being in California to someone in Massachusetts, and that's because of my status. I couldn't, to be the director of an organization that is fiscally sponsored, you still get employed as an employee, even if it's part-time in California. So that was a huge struggle for me to find a fiscal sponsor in another state that could bring me on as a contractor to direct this organization. So again, that's something I don't get to tell to a lot of people, but it was a huge struggle for me. And I feel like going through so many ups and downs with that organization has really helped me, like, not be so emotionally attached to opportunities that come now. Because I send proposals, I submit proposals and emails to a lot of opportunities, and most of the time they don't come true. They're not actual opportunities, and those things might come in later through different routes or from like conversations for something to apply. But sometimes it's hard because a lot of opportunities that we apply to were very emotionally attached, and that might take a toll on us and change our feelings towards, like, do we keep going, do we not? Yeah, and also with Dreamers in Tech, I was able to create spaces for students to communicate. I really wanted to create that community where people could connect with others in a space that there's not a lot of support in. Yeah, I think that's something about it.
Thanks for that input. How about we have some closing remarks from folks, and then I'm gonna share a couple slides. And if you have any resources that you want to share, maybe you can mention some of the resources right now that you're tapping into for the growth of your business. We could do a combination of that, some closing remarks and some resources that have been pivotal for you.
I think I go. So I think for resources, just reading. And reading has been so important. I didn't read before at all. And like, books take like 1 to 2 years or more for people to put together, and there's all their knowledge within like these pages. And I think a lot of the things that you go through as an entrepreneur is like, you have to live it. The experience has to come from you actually doing things. But if you can avoid that, if you can get that experience from others, that will save you so much time, and you'll get so much knowledge from that. So reading on like different skills, where it's selling, mindset, like planning my life, or like even like biographies from other individuals, like it brings so much information. So, and I actually don't read. I do all this through audiobooks. So use Libby or Hoopla and get your library cards. There's so much information, and that's how I consume it, just through audio.
Thank you. Rob, what are some of your resources to tap into, or closing remarks?
For me, I guess my resources would be just, don't, like, just like ask questions and ask for help if you need it, for sure. Because I feel like a lot of the times we feel like, we're too scared, or we feel like we're bothering people by asking these questions. I know that's what I feel most of the time, mentally, especially growing up being undocumented, como que me da pena, and so a lot of the times I don't want to bother you, but I kind of want to know if you could help me out understanding if this is what I have to do, to people that are in the same situation as I am. Or I go to conferences too that are around people that are doing the similar things, and then just see where they're at and see how we can help each other too, and they said, reading books and listening to audiobooks, very beneficial. Looking into ways that you can actually get sponsorship on your business too, because if you get a sponsorship on your business, you can actually apply for a visa nowadays and actually find ways around actually getting documents too, from my understanding, now that I've been looking into it. So it doesn't hurt to just take your time to look into it, because you will find those answers.
Andrea, would you like to mention any resources that you're tapping into and for the growth of your business?
I think like both Tana and Rob answered, it was just a lot of researching and asking those questions. In my case with interpreting, I think I watched some YouTube videos as well. And like, okay, let's see how like Zoom interpreting works, because you have to set up a feature on the settings, and just so that I had those terrifying thoughts out of my head so that I could focus on delivering my services. And ultimately, even though I tried to prepare as much as I could to get that anxiety out of the way, it was just experiencing it and seeing how you respond when you're on the spot, and feeling, kind of reflecting afterwards, seeing like, okay, that went well, this I did well, I didn't like how I did this, I'm going to improve on whatever the following. Through experience, I feel like I learned some more ways of talking to clients, and I started saving notes, like good things I learned per session, or making a long list of vocab, like all the words I would get stuck on. Now I have a list where I alphabetically order the words that I get confused on. Like, I don't know if y'all know how to say nonprofit in Spanish, but that's called, that you say that as organizaciones sin beneficios lucrativos. It's such a long term. So stuff like that, you just learn as you go.
Cool, thank you.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, just something to add really quick is like, anything that you want to do, someone is already doing it. And it's super helpful to find those people that are already doing, and asking them just how they did it. And I think you might be surprised, but like, even that way you can find opportunities to work in the future, and it might not be directly from them, but like, that's when they will remember you, that you're present, you're striving to be someone, or to find this experience, and opportunities come from like where you least expect it. And finding those people that are already doing what you want to do is like the easiest, most like direct way for you to understand how you can start through that path.
excellent, thank you. And I'm providing here contact information for our panelists if you want to learn more about their pathway to entrepreneurship, or get in touch with them. As you've heard, we are all a resource to you, and we might have the answers to your questions. We might have been in the same position that you are. So Roberto and Tonatiu, is there any other information here that I missed on your business? Anything you want to mention about it?
Yeah, we do. Well, me personally, I do offer classes for people. If people want to learn about like learning how to cultivate mushrooms or something like that, you can definitely just shoot me an email. I do, more of a private class. We do private walks in case you want to take out, people out on walks or something like that, or you yourself are interested, you're more than welcome to, hit me up or contact me. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Rob, would you, if you do those hikes or nature walks, do you have a scheduled date when you're taking them so people can join, or?
Yeah, I mostly do them on the weekends. So like Saturday, Sundays, early morning, like from 6 to like maybe 12. Just because like that's the best time to go out and get everybody started. But yeah, it's mostly on like Saturday through Sundays right now. We're about to start taking a break and we're gonna start again during the fall season. So our
Okay.
stuff is seasonal. And during the fall season is we're gonna start going towards Arcata and work our way down towards the Bay Area.
That's pretty cool. So stay tuned to your social media, huh? To know when
Yeah.
you're gonna come to the Bay Area. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, and we got another question about hikes. Where are they located on the?
So they're located in the East Bay, South Bay. Right now we go to like Santa Cruz area, Palo Alto area, over here by Tilden, and then maybe by Stinson Beach area as well. Usually we find a bunch of oyster mushrooms in Lion's Mane, in the East Bay. And then like towards Arcata and Eureka, we find like all those like rare mushrooms that people always look online and find and stuff like that.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, whenever you're in Santa Cruz, I live in Santa Cruz and I'd love to see the mushrooms grow and hiking. So we definitely have to connect.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to offer a hike to people that are undocumented. Honestly, that's something that I really wanted to start doing because recently I started doing for people that were formerly incarcerated.
Mhm.
And for me, that was very powerful. And I was like, how can I bring this to people that are undocumented, going through some type of trauma that either they've been in ICE detention centers or gone through some type of not sponsorship, but asylum.
Mhm.
Because the whole process of that is very difficult, especially when I have a partner that does sponsorship for people that are seeking asylum. So, when I see people coming from Honduras or Guatemala going through their stories, I'm just like, okay, there needs to be some type of, like therapy for people that are going through these type of traumatic events.
Agreed. Thank you so much for providing this beautiful work. So before we run out of time, folks, I just want to mention a couple resources that you might all, if you're not familiar with, I covered a lot of the information last week on options for you to generate an income, business structures, business models, and things of that nature. Immigrants Rising does a bunch of great work. And so here's a live link for that. It's been created with the focus on undocumented students in college. And so what are some of the options that we're looking at once we graduate and we need to generate income? Another excellent service that Immigrants Rising provides is the sparks.immigrantsrising.org website, where it doesn't matter at what stage you are in your entrepreneurship journey, you can create your portal, learn about their videos, start drafting out some of the ideas for what it might take for you to be in business, to develop a model. And also you have an extended network of community support. It's all confidential, and folks are coming from a very similar lived experience and embracing a variety of business models and pathways. So I invite you to stay in touch with Immigrants Rising and to visit this portal. Visit this website where you can create your own confidential portal. Also, as San Jose State students, you have access to the Small Business Development Center in your area, which is hosted by San Jose State University. And this nonprofit organization is providing free membership that offers you advising and all sorts of resources for the growth or start of your business at any stage. It's multilingual advising. So there's a variety of languages. If you know of folks in the community who might benefit from getting this sort of support, they do have specialties like in restaurants and technology. And one item that I found in their website is that they have inclusivity projects. And so like the focus of their most recent project was African-American, Black-owned businesses and development of those businesses. I am pitching the idea. I'm looking into how can we create an inclusivity project with the undocumented lens for our community, because a lot of the information that they provide is great, but it's very general. And what you've seen in my workshops, it's very undocumented focus with the lens in undocumentedness, because that is what is affecting us particularly, and that's why we create these circles. So regardless, you have access to this resource, please visit them. And that's all that I have. I want to thank you all for sharing your experience, sharing your definitions of the entrepreneur mindset, and how this plays out in your pathways. Thank you for the opportunity to have me address you again. And I just want to pass it off to folks to give their last closing remarks.
Yeah,
Andrea,
thank you.
Robert, Donatio.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm happy to connect. If anyone wants to reach out and just chat, I'm always open to chat about anything, share my experience, and yeah, man, help in any way that I can. I definitely wish that I was like still connected very closely with the undocumented community. Is like so empowering to hear everyone how they're going about finding work, finding opportunities. So it's very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And thank you so much for having me too. I really appreciate it. And also for having these type of tools, it's very necessary. So let me know how I can help, as well. If you have any of these type of events again, like always send me the flyer and I'll post it on my page. So that way we can help more people establish their businesses too.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. It'd be awesome if we can all connect for a hike or a walk.
I'm
It
super
will
confident.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna happen. I love hikes.
Sweet. Just shoot me an email and I'll definitely get that going.
I can make an email thread with all of us on it so we can plan it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Juan. Thank you, Rob, Donatio. Donna, it was nice seeing you again. Rob, it's such a pleasure to connect with you. And hopefully you will be seeing me also in these hikes, sorry, not heights, I hate heights. And so yes, thank you for being here. And to the students, we will be posting this recording. We will share the resources as well. Keep an eye out for more communications, and Andrea's also available to, if you want to reach out and connect with her here on campus. I'm going to we're going to share her contact information via email as well. And let me go ahead and stop the recording.